Today on the Matt Walsh Show, a surge of immigration from Haiti is destroying communities in America, even those thousands of miles away from Haiti. It's gotten so bad that, according to many reports, the Haitian immigrants are killing and eating people's household pets. Will this be the thing that finally convinces the cat ladies that the border must be secured? Also, Kamala Harris is fading fast in the polls. Climate alarmists predicted historic, devastating hurricanes this season. Instead, there have been basically no hurricanes at all. And a film glorifying euthanasia earns the top prize at the Venice Film Festival and an 18-minute standing ovation. We'll talk about all that and more today on The Matt Walsh Show.
I want to know, am I racist?
Am I racist? Why do you judge by the color of our faces? Is racial division just a plan by the Matrix? They burn down our cities, then they get called courageous. Instead of condemning the media, give them praises. Oh man, what is the benefit? When the media ruin our images. If you a white male, you get called a white supremacist. If your opinion and the narrative have differences.
We have new show intro music for this week, straight from the soundtrack of Am I Racist?, the Daily Wire's first ever theatrical release, hitting theaters nationwide this Friday. Theaters are selling out across the country with more screens being added daily. So get your tickets and showtimes now at amiracist.com. Betting with BetOnline is so much fun. Beyond traditional sports, BetOnline gives you the option to bet on political events like the outcome of the presidential election or whether Hunter Biden will serve jail time before 2025. Political betting allows you to wager on real-world events outside the realm of sports, or if you're a diehard sports fan, BetOnline makes sports betting more accessible and convenient than ever before. With just a few clicks, you can place bets on your favorite team or events from the comfort of your own home. BetOnline prides themselves on their higher-than-average betting limits of up to $25,000. You can increase your wagering amounts by contacting their player services desk by phone or email. So, while you're watching your favorite team or the news on upcoming elections, why not spice things up with a friendly wager at BetOnline? Go to betonline.ag. Use promo code Walsh for a 50% sign-up bonus of up to $250. That's betonline.ag. Use promo code Walsh. BetOnline. The options are endless. In early 2018, senators from both parties met with Donald Trump inside the White House. They were there to discuss the visa lottery system, which is a program that allocates visas to people from countries with historically low rates of immigration to the United States. And this is one of many government programs that's existed for decades without anyone in power asking why it exists, even though a visa lottery like this makes no sense whatsoever. The only criterion we should have when deciding who gets to enter the United States is whether admitting those people would make the United States a better country. Whether or not their country is underrepresented in the United States should have no bearing on whether a potential migrant is awarded a visa. As simple and obvious as this point may be, you rarely hear anyone say it. Certainly, you don't very often hear presidents say it. But in his meeting with the senators, Donald Trump pointed out this problem right away. Trump specifically wanted to know why we were awarding visas to people from Haiti, one of the poorest and most dysfunctional countries in the entire world. And depending on who you ask, Trump used maybe slightly more colorful language than that when he asked the question, but that was the question. And you probably remember the outrage that followed. There was an outrage cycle that lasted more than 2 weeks. Haiti's government said that Trump's comments were abhorrent. The United Nations Human Rights Office said that Donald Trump had damaged and disrupted the lives of many people. Conan O'Brien started filming his show in Haiti, during which he repeatedly blamed Haiti's collapse on the United States. Quote, "The Haitians have been dealt the worst hand in the Western Hemisphere," he said, implying that we owe them housing and health care because somehow we have done this to them. But none of the outrage addressed Trump's fundamental question. At no point did anyone in the press or the Democrat Party explain why we need to admit more Haitians into the U.S. Nobody addressed Trump's concern, which is that giving Haitians visas, simply because they come from Haiti and for no other reason, would dramatically lower the quality of life for American citizens. In other words, the question is, what's in it for us? And this is a question that any president should be asking. What's in it for, I know how the Haitians benefit from coming to the U.S. How do we benefit from having Haitians here? And if the answer is we don't benefit from having Haitians here, then we shouldn't be accepting that many of them. It's that simple. Because as a president, you are supposed to be looking out for the well-being of your people first. Well, as a result, 2 years after the manufactured outrage over Trump's comments, lives have indeed been damaged and disrupted, as the United Nations put it. But those lives are not in Haiti. I mean, yeah, the lives in Haiti are a disaster. But again, that's not our primary concern. Our primary concern is America, not Haiti. Haiti is up to Haitians have to fix Haiti. It's not up to us to fix it. And if the Haitians can't figure out how to fix their own country, well, I guess it's just going to be a mess forever until you figure out how to fix your own damn country. But now there are places in, there are Haitians in places like Springfield, Ohio, which were overrun with Haitian immigrants overnight. And that's not hysteria. It's clearly happening. This is a report from NPR, maybe the most Democrat-aligned media outlet in existence. But even NPR cannot spin the situation in Springfield. Quote, around 2020, things in this town took an unexpected turn. Thousands of Haitian migrants fleeing violence and poverty landed in Springfield. Locals say that it felt like it happened overnight. On Sunday afternoons, you could suddenly hear Creole mass wafting through the downtown streets. Haitian restaurants started popping up. The town of around 60,000 has received some 15 to 20,000 migrants in the last 4 years, many of them from Haiti. So I'll say that again. A town of 60,000 people now has 20,000 migrants and have received all of them in just the last 4 years. That's a third of their population being added. This is a town that already had a poverty rate of more than twice the national average before the Haitians started moving in. This would be unsustainable even if Springfield were recruiting highly qualified and skilled immigrants. You can't just massively increase your population very quickly without breaking things. And things are indeed breaking in Springfield. Take a look at this data from the FBI's Crime Data Explorer. The blue line tracks the number of crimes reported in Springfield, Ohio. And you notice how it's pretty steady from 2012 to 2020. And then all of a sudden, the number of crimes surged. In fact, it more than doubles beginning in 2020 when this surge of migrants from Haiti arrives. One of those crimes was committed last August by Hermanio Joseph, a Haitian migrant who drove his minivan into a school bus, killing an 11-year-old child who was ejected from the bus. The driver apparently had a Mexican driver's license, an Ohio ID card, but no Ohio's driver's license. Obviously, he should not have been in this country, much less driving on the road, but he was there. And for killing a child, he was only sentenced to about 10 years in prison. These kinds of stories are now commonplace in Springfield. Meanwhile, social services have been overwhelmed. The Daily Mail reports that, quote, at the community health clinic, Haitian patients rose from 115 to 1,500 between 2021 and 2023. Overwhelming services. Rocking Horse Community Health Center Chief Medical Officer Yamini Tigla said that language barriers meant a 15-minute consult took up to 45 minutes. We lost productivity. We had a huge burnout of staff, she said. The clinic hired 6 Haitian translators, but its translation budget blew out from $43,000 in 2020 to $436,000, which Tigala said was unsustainable. Now, even with all this spending, Haitians are still terrorizing locals in Springfield. Here's one woman at a city council meeting explaining that the town's just no longer safe for her to live in. Watch.
Noel? Thank you.
I live at 426 Northwestern Avenue. Miss Skinner, who I'm not trying to put on the spot, is my neighbor.
Just talk to me, ma'am. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
And I'm done with what I'm seeing. It is so unsafe in my neighborhood anymore. I have the homeless that were trying to camp out, and I have made concessions with them, and I try to help them the best I can to keep them from trying to squat on my property. But it is so unsafe. I have men that cannot speak English in my front yard screaming at me, throwing mattresses in my front yard, throwing trash in my front yard. And I can't. Look at me, I weigh 95 pounds. I couldn't defend myself if I had to. My husband is elderly, and last night, after living in this home for 45 years, he said, Noel, guess what? It's time to pack up and move. He said, we can't do this anymore. He said, it's killing both of us mentally. I don't understand what you expect of us as citizens. I mean, I understand they're here under temporary protected status, and you're protecting them, and I understand that our city services are overwhelmed and understaffed. But who's protecting us? If we're protecting them, who's protecting me? I want out of this town. I am sorry. Please give me a reason to stay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So if you could watch a clip like that and your takeaway is that, oh, that woman's a bigot, that racist white bigot does. If that's your takeaway, then you're a very stupid person and a bad person and a bad American. That's it. I just have no respect for you as a human being if that is your reaction to that woman. Who is it unreasonable? She just wants her community to be safe. And it is being actively destroyed. They are bringing people in to destroy it by the busload every year. And she's saying, can you not do this? I live here with my family. You're making it dangerous to live here. Why should Haitians be I live in Ohio. Why should I have to deal with the fact that with Haitian criminals? Why should that be my problem? In Springfield, Ohio. That's her question. And you can, if you are at all a smart, empathetic person and a good American, you understand her exasperation. Springfield didn't vote for this. It's one of the most pro-Trump areas in the entire country, but no one can escape the consequences of mass migration. That's the whole point of it. The Biden-Harris administration looks at this and they see a success story. There's no outrage among the left as communities like this are destroyed. They don't care, even as American citizens, including children, are killed. In fact, it's not just human beings who are being murdered as a result of this migrant surge. In Springfield, there are now reports on social media that Haitians are eating people's cats. So residents at city council meetings are also complaining that that, as well as Haitians are eating ducks on the side of the road. This is a thing that's apparently happening now in the United States of America. Here, this is from just a week ago. Watch.
I think it's like kind of odd that like a guy like me has to come out from doing what I do on a daily basis to have fun because I see what's going on in these streets and I see you guys just sitting up there in them comfy chairs and suits and I'm getting out here every day and I'm broadcasting this and you guys are just sitting up there in suits or something. Like I really challenge you guys to get out here and do something. These Haitians are running into trash cans. They're running into buildings. They're running into, they flipping cars in the middle of the street. And I don't know how, like, y'all can be comfortable with this. Like, I don't know, like, who's getting paid from it. I honestly feel like someone's getting paid from it in the background. You got a bunch of people on a bus getting dropped off at a gas station to come down here. I know a single mom that FaceTimed me this morning at the welfare office that really need something. And it's nothing but immigrants over there. And I don't even want to seem like I'm coming down on the immigrants because it's the people that's bringing them down here. Because wherever they're at, that's what they're used to, bro. They're in the park grabbing up ducks by their neck and cutting their head off and walking off with them and eating them
So the man goes on to note that there are plenty of police in Springfield. It's easy to get a traffic ticket, but apparently it's not easy to round up and deport the Haitians who are eating animals and crashing their cars into children. Not the government's priority. He theorizes in that clip that maybe the government's being paid off by somebody. That's all he can think of. But that doesn't have to be the explanation. I mean, the Biden administration has a clear political motivation to import as many third world immigrants as possible because, eventually they'll vote. And some local politicians in Springfield, which was devastated economically after the auto industry moved overseas, thought that more migrants would help the economy. And now here we are. Instead of helping the economy, the migrants are apparently eating animals in public, which is not much of a economic help, as far as I can tell. As unsettling as all this is, you have to wonder whether this will be the thing that finally awakens people on the left to the problem of rampant immigration. I mean, they don't seem to care much when immigrants kill human beings. That doesn't bother them in the slightest. Maybe they'll care about the ducks and chickens and cats that are meeting an untimely demise. Presumably the vegans will be rising up any day now. One wonders what the childless cat ladies will say when their cats end up in a Haitian's crock pot or whatever they use to cook cats. I don't know. After all, this isn't just happening in Springfield, Ohio. It's happening everywhere that illegal immigrants are being imported. That's why there's a similar crisis unfolding in Queens, New York, which is the borough that's taking the brunt of the illegal migrant surge in the city. 70 of New York's 193 taxpayer-funded migrant shelters are located in Queens, and hundreds of thousands of illegals have arrived in the city in the last 2 years. As Councilman Robert Holden put it, we're getting dumped on here. How long can we sustain this? These shelters add nothing to the neighborhood. They only bring crime. Some of that crime involves eating animals, apparently. The New York Post reports that, quote, animal sacrifices are surging in Queens, with chickens, pigs, and rats being tortured, mutilated, or killed in twisted religious rituals in parkland surrounding Jamaica Bay. In a little over a month, at least 9 wounded animals or carcasses have been discovered in the federally managed Spring Creek Park in Howard Beach and the Jamaica Bay Wildlife Refuge in Broad Channel, including 5 live pigs with partially severed ears. Creatures recovered from the revolting scene also include a near-dead baby rat tied up in a bag with chicken bones, a freshly decapitated chicken head, a live hen in distress, and a dead dog with its neck snapped. This is being linked not to Haitians in this case, but to Hindu devotees who worship the goddess Kali. Then there's this quote from Sloan Quealy, who runs Zion's Mission Animal Rescue. Quote, it's continually getting worse. The animal sacrifices are happening more repeatedly, more times a week. The sacrificers know it's open season. Yes, the sacrificers know that it's open season. And of course, those sacrificers typically have something in common, which is that they didn't come from the United States. These episodes are yet more evidence of a simple truism: import the third world, become the third world. Culture matters. When you allow a flood of third world people, you end up with an increasingly third world culture. And anyone who's ever been to a third world country knows that that's not generally going to be an improvement. Okay, you get fight clubs on the street, you get garbage all over the place and loud music playing around the clock. Watch.
Long nights with loud music, kids playing outside, and garbage around the neighborhood is what tenants at this building on 10th Street and 44 Drive in Long Island City have been dealing with for the past few months.
I have a lot of loud music. They have big speakers over there in the corner, particularly on the weekends.
Kiko has been living in this building for 32 years and has never seen anything like it. It all started when the once 128-room Wyndham Hotel was turned into a New York City migrant shelter. He and other neighbors have seen kids riding up and down the sidewalk, jumping off porches, and at times taking showers by the spigot and even taking water to cook meals right on the street.
There's like 2 or 3 cars that they use to cook. And then it appears that they're maybe selling the food to the people in the hotel.
So he's lived there for more than 30 years and he's never seen anything like it, but it's happening now. Some of this may be because of the visa lottery, which allows people like this into the country illegally. A lot of it is because of asylum fraud or temporary protected status and so on. But the debate over whether these migrants are illegal or not isn't really the main issue here. That's because, as hard as it may be for either party to admit, illegal immigration is not the only problem. Unchecked immigration of any kind, illegal or legal, creates the same problems in this country. We do not erase the downside of importing many thousands of Haitians every year just by importing them legally. The immigrants that are reportedly conducting blood sacrifices on the street don't suddenly become acceptable because we give them a visa. The key point is that we do not want America to be like those places. We don't want America to become like Haiti or any third world country, which is why, again, it's a very simple equation. It really is. Before you bring any immigrant to this country from any other country, you should ask yourself not, how would it benefit this immigrant to be in America? No, you ask yourself, how would it benefit America to bring in these immigrants? And if the answer is, it will not benefit us, it will only hurt us, they should not be here. Okay? It doesn't mean that America has never benefited from immigration from any place in the world. It doesn't mean that we should never allow anyone to immigrate here ever again. No one's saying that. But how has America been strengthened by allowing a flood of Haitian immigrants, legally or illegally? In what way have we benefited? In what way are we a stronger country today because of all the Haitians we've added in the last 10 years? Can anyone lay that out for me? They can't. So whether this country becomes like Haiti or any similar place illegally or legally is basically irrelevant. If places like Springfield and Queens are ever going to become livable again, the people running the government have to admit that. And they have no choice but to get these people out of the country as quickly as possible. Now let's get to our 5 headlines. Did you know that there is nearly $1 trillion of infrastructure and pandemic funds yet to be spent? That's right, there's a massive amount of money that the lame duck administration is pushing hard to spend in their last few months. If the president is able to push these funds out, we could see another prolonged inflation surge, just like during COVID. And I'm sure you remember the terrible effects that high prices had on most Americans, are still having, in fact, but there's hope. A surge in prices can be beaten. A gold IRA from Birch Gold Group is the ultimate inflation hedge for your savings in uncertain times. To see how to protect your IRA or 401k, get your free info kit on gold by texting the word Walsh to 989898. And there's more good news. Due to enormous demand, Birch Gold is offering the 24-karat gold-plated Truth Bomb for 1 more month on qualifying purchases. But you need to text Walsh to 989898 to claim your eligibility before September 30th. Don't wait for the president's spending spree to tank the dollar further. Protect your financial future with gold. Text Walsh to 989898 to claim your eligibility and make your purchase before September 30th. Okay, just want to mention, first of all, today is the world premiere of my new film, What is a Woman? We have our premiere event anyway in Nashville today. And the film comes out wide release on Friday, the 13th. Tickets are on sale at amracist.com. So big moment here in the company today, for the company, for myself, for everybody involved. And I'll be sitting in a theater with about 400 people tonight watching myself in a movie for an hour and 40 minutes. And looking forward to the event. Very grateful to be here, to be in this position. Not looking forward to the actual experience of watching myself while others are also watching me. It takes me out of my comfort zone a bit, I'll admit. But then again, I had to go out of my comfort zone a lot, extremely, radically outside of it in order to make this movie. And the last movie also, by the way. In fact, this is something my wife brings up to me all the time because, I think it's well known I tend to be more of an introverted person. And so she'll say, like, hey, how is it that you can make movies where you're going into rooms with dozens of people who hate your guts, and you can sit there for 2 hours intentionally antagonizing them on camera, and yet you don't want to, like, go down to the church basement after Mass and have a donut with people who like you? It's a good question. It's a very good question. And I'm insane is the answer. I plead insanity. I'm just a crazy person is the answer. It's the only answer I can come up with. But anyway, very excited about this tonight and this week. And if you have not pre-ordered your tickets yet, this is why we've been hammering this for, I'm sure, until you're probably sick of hearing of it. But really important to buy the tickets in pre-sale. Lots of people have. And, we started with, 200 or 300 theaters, I think, is the number of screens we had when we first announced the film, and it's expanded way beyond, exponentially, it's expanded. So if you maybe went online when we first announced the film coming out, and you went to amracist.com and you wanted to buy tickets, and you saw that, well, there were no theaters showing it within 70 miles of you. Well, first of all, stop being lazy. Why can't you go 70 miles, okay? But second, you should check back because there might be screens closer to you now as more and more are added and have been added over the last few weeks. All right, DNYUZ reports, is Kamala Harris's surge beginning to ebb? That's the question raised by this morning's New York Times Siena College poll, which finds Donald J. Trump narrowly ahead of her among likely voters nationwide, 48% to 47%. To me, the result is a bit surprising. It's the first lead for Mr. Trump in a major nonpartisan national survey in about a month. As a result, it's worth being at least a little cautious about these findings, and there isn't much confirmation from other polls. That said, it wouldn't be hard to explain if Vice President Harris's support really has faded a bit in recent weeks. After all, she was benefiting from an ideal news environment, an uninterrupted month of glowing coverage from President Biden's departure from the race in July to the Democratic convention in August. It's possible she was riding a political sugar high. If so, it makes sense if she came off those highs in the 2 uneventful weeks since the convention. So that's what the poll is showing. And obviously her support is starting to ebb. That was always going to happen eventually because the support was never based on anything. You know, the media ginned up the hype machine without ever telling us what we're supposed to be hyped about or why. And I thought maybe they could keep it going until the election, but I guess I kind of overestimated the media's propagandizing power because when it comes down to it, you know, the hype has to be based on something. It has to be grounded in something. There has to be something about this person that we're supposed to be excited about. Now, you can exaggerate it. You can play it up. You can mythologize to some extent. But if you have nothing to work with, and especially if you don't have charisma, I mean, if you have charisma and natural kind of speaking talent, and you have someone who, like Obama, can deliver these kind of soaring speeches that sound very flowery. He's not really saying anything, but it sounds good. If you have somebody like that, then yeah, you can build up hype around that person and probably maintain it for many months, if not years. With Obama, it took probably years for it to wear off, and for some people, it never did. But you don't have that in Kamala, with Kamala. There's just nothing there. So in Kamala's case, I mean, it would be like taking maybe the 10th most attractive woman working at your local DMV and trying to convince everyone that she's a supermodel and that all men just fall madly in love with her when they lay eyes on her for 1 second. Now, you could maybe do that temporarily with Photoshop and AI and all that kind of stuff, but eventually you have to produce the actual person, right? The woman herself. It's a catfish. Maybe that's a better comparison. It's like someone who's doing some catfishing on a dating app, and they're putting a photo out that isn't even, it's just ridiculously photoshopped, or it's not even them. It's like, well, yeah, you can get away with that, but if you ever want to actually meet a person, right, then eventually you got to deal with the fact that you are you, and that's going to come out. So that's the case with Kamala. The issue with Kamala is that she is herself. The problem with Kamala is Kamala. That's the one minor difficulty that she runs into. So in other words, Kamala is who we thought she was. She is who we thought she was. To paraphrase Dennis Green, may he rest in peace. So what does all that mean? It means that this election is going to be about Trump. And, Trump is all that really matters in the election. It's the election is what we thought it was. Like, it's going to be about Trump. It was always going to be about Trump. If Trump loses, if he actually loses, legitimately loses, he will lose because the anti-Trump vote was mobilized enough to defeat him, and because enough of the people in the middle were just sort of, had Trump fatigue and were kind of sick of him and ready to move on. That's if he loses. If he wins, it'll be because the pro-Trump vote was mobilized and enough of the people in the middle were kind of ready to give Trump another shot. So if Trump, whatever happens in the election, it'll be because of Trump one way or another. If Kamala wins, it's not going to be because of a surge of pro-Kamala voters who are super psyched about her. If she wins, if she wins legitimately, another if, it'll be because of the anti-Trump vote, not the pro-Kamala vote. The most consequential debate in our history is set as Trump and Harris face off tomorrow night. We're going backstage with a live simulcast of the debate and reactions from the most trusted voices in conservative media. Join me, Ben Shapiro, Michael Knowles, Andrew Klavan, Jeremy Boring for full coverage and analysis. Watch live on Daily Wire Plus. All right, I wanted to mention this. There was a lot of talk about this being an incoming historic hurricane season, because of climate change and all that jazz. But then a funny thing happened during the historic hurricane season, and that is nothing. Nothing happened. They were basically like, there were no hurricanes. So MSN has the report, quote, as weeks went by with no hurricane activity, Phil Klotzbach could feel the pressure building. He and the rest of the meteorology world has predicted a potentially historic hurricane season, and yet, during what would normally be the most active stretch of tropical storms, the Atlantic Ocean was eerily quiet. Even his running buddies, with no knowledge of meteorology, began to ask, where are all the hurricanes? As the author of one of the most trusted and longest-running hurricane season outlooks, he considered issuing an unprecedented mid-season update in late August, acknowledging the chances that this year's forecast could be a bust. He held off in case a new system formed over Labor Day weekend, but that didn't happen. Okay. Now, you might be wondering, what will the climate alarmists do with this? Will they backtrack a bit? Will they say, hey, look at that. You know, we thought that climate change would create this big hurricane season. It didn't happen. Maybe climate change isn't all it's cracked up to be. No, of course not. That's not going to happen. Instead, we get this. Reading on, quote, there are questions about whether planetary warming could be so extreme that it supercharged the storms that managed to form, but has also allowed fewer to materialize. The quiet Atlantic stands in contrast to a dynamic Pacific typhoon season, and yet another record-hot northern hemisphere summer that spread deadly temperatures, massive fires, and overwhelming floods around the globe. So, yeah, just as expected, global warming was supposed to cause historic hurricanes, but then the hurricanes didn't happen. Why didn't they happen? Well, because of global warming. If hurricanes happen, it's because of global warming. If they don't, it's because of global warming. If they happen a lot, it's because of global warming. If they happen just a little bit, it's because of global warming. If you walk down the street and trip over your shoelace and, you know, get a concussion, global warming. There's nothing that can disprove it. There's nothing that can contradict the theory. Like all events, right, prove the theory, which tells you there's a problem with the theory. And I know we go over this a lot, and you know, I'm not a scientist, but I do understand this basic scientific concept that theories that can never be proven wrong are bad theories, because a theory should make predictions. And if the predictions don't come to pass, it means that there's something wrong with the theory, or at least with the way you interpreted your theory. But if the theory makes a prediction, and then the prediction is not reflected in reality, and then that still proves your theory somehow, well, it means you're not doing science, right? It means you're doing doctrine. You're doing ideology, right? That's not science. Oh, and I love this too. Just one more paragraph, because this was very revealing. So listen to this. Even as meteorologists can detect factors contributing to the lull, they're struggling to understand why those factors have overwhelmed conditions that might otherwise fuel intense storm after storm. Many who warned the public to prepare for a dangerous summer and fall are now caught in the awkward position of almost rooting for storms, lest they end up eating crow and losing the public's confidence when their predictions fall flat come November. Well, would you listen to that? They're rooting for the storms. Talk about saying the quiet part out loud. They are rooting for deadly storms to devastate your community. They're rooting for your house to wash away with you inside it. They're not predicting storms or projecting them. They're wishing for the storms. So how many times do we have to see proof here that climate alarmists are just anti-human? They are fundamentally anti-human, which I say all the time, and this is just more evidence of that. Here's a story from the Christian Post. A federal judge has ruled that an Ohio school district may have violated a teacher's First Amendment rights by forcing her to resign for refusing to use trans-identified students' preferred names and pronouns due to her religious convictions. Judge Pamela Barker of the Northern District of Ohio issued an order earlier this month denying and granting in part competing motions for summary judgment filed by Jackson Local School District in Jackson Township, to dismiss the lawsuit filed by former Jackson Middle School English teacher Vivian Garrity. The litigation is ongoing as several issues remain unresolved. Barker, a Trump appointee, wrote, specifically, the court concludes that Garrity's compelled speech was not pursuant to her ordinary job duties, and that the district's name and pronoun practice was not neutral and generally applied. But it withholds deciding whether the Pickering balancing test and strict scrutiny weigh in plaintiff's favor or defendant's favor until a jury makes factual determinations regarding the alleged interests at stake. I think we have a clip here from Fox with a little more detail about this case. Listen.
I told them that I would not because of my religious beliefs, and within 2 hours I was forced to pack up my belongings and escorted out of the school.
Vivian Garrity is an Ohio teacher who claims in a lawsuit she was forced to resign when she would not accommodate two students who asked to be called by different names and pronouns. The school board voted to accept her resignation in September. We have blurred her appearance due to concerns for her safety.
I am a professing Christian. I go to church 4 times a week. It is the largest part of my identity, and I do believe that God only created 2 sexes.
The Alliance Defending Freedom filed the lawsuit on Garrity's behalf against the Jackson Memorial Middle School principal, the Board of Education, and 2 district employees seeking reinstatement to her teaching job.
The case here raises a critical issue, and that's whether or not public schools can order teachers to set their religious beliefs aside as a condition of public service.
So she's claiming this is compelled speech, and of course it's compelled speech. This is the very definition of compelled speech. It's as close as you can get to requiring that a teacher vocally disavow her own faith in order to do her job. Keep her job. In fact, it isn't close to that. It is that. You are requiring that she affirmatively declare something that she doesn't think is true and which contradicts her deeply held religious views. So, obviously unconstitutional, obviously compelled speech, obviously a First Amendment violation. If this is not a First Amendment violation, then nothing is. Nothing is. Now, on the other hand, I will admit that I'm always very hesitant to cast this issue as a religious liberty issue. I understand why ADF is attacking it from that angle, and I mean it's true. It is definitely a religious liberty issue, no question about it. But my only hesitation is that it makes it sound like Christians on faith alone are just trusting that gender ideology is false. It sounds like we have to rely on our faith, on our doctrine, to tell us that men can't get pregnant, that women don't have penises. But the truth is that I would hold exactly the same view on this topic, no matter my religion, even if I was an atheist. Okay, there are many things about my worldview that, if I was an atheist, would radically change, of course, but this wouldn't. I mean, my position on gender ideology would be exactly the same. Right? Because this is just about observable reality that we can see around us. It's got really nothing to do with religion, at least not on the surface. Because the leap of faith is entirely on the other side. Gender ideology is essentially a religious doctrine that teachers are being forced to affirm and to promote and pledge allegiance to. It is a creed that they're being made to recite. So the compelled speech problem would still be a problem, a constitutional problem, even if this teacher was not Christian. So, I'm not embarrassed about saying that something is a matter of faith if it is. Christ's saving resurrection and redemption of mankind is a matter of faith. Right? I think that there's a fair amount of historical evidence to support it, but I fully admit that I believe it through faith, not solely because I did some sort of historical investigation and then decided at that point to believe it. It is a matter of faith. I have no shame in that. We shouldn't be ashamed of that. There's nothing shameful about faith, quite the contrary. Which is why if a school punished a teacher for believing in the resurrection, then we would say that it is fully and totally a matter of religious liberty. But human biology it's like anything else that's directly apparent to us every single day. It's like the existence of the sun in the sky. So if a teacher was being made to pretend that the sun doesn't exist, now it would be an attack on her faith, yes, because God created the sun. The sun is part of creation. It's in the Bible. So if you're being made to deny the existence of the sun, being S-U-N, then you would be contradicting your own faith. But if some kind of crazy policy like that was instated in a school somewhere where we're going to pretend the sun doesn't exist, we probably wouldn't say that it's first and foremost an attack on religious liberty. Instead, we would argue that it's plainly insane. It denies observable reality, regardless of your religion. It's like you are wanting us to deny something that we can all see. Go outside, you can see it. And just to use that example again, I think that in such a scenario, if somebody were to say, well, it's against my religion to say that the sun doesn't exist. Again, yeah, I mean, in a sense that's true, but you are unnecessarily making it sound like you believe in the existence of the sun based on faith. There's no reason you don't, like, they are the ones. They are the weird anti-sun cult that has decided that there's no sun. So for them, they are the ones insisting on a religious doctrine. Now, on the other hand, I also hesitate to say that gender ideology is like a religious doctrine, because then it's as if you're using religious as a pejorative when there's nothing wrong with religion per se. I'll be the first defender of religion all day long. But I don't mean religion itself. There's nothing pejorative about religion itself, but all religions are not made the same, right? And there are religions that are just, first of all, false and destructive. And gender ideology is one of them. But it is a religious doctrine. It just happens to be a false and, like I said, destructive and completely irrational one, unlike Christianity. All right, let's talk about meat. You know, that thing the left is trying to guilt you out of eating? Your voice isn't just heard at the ballot box every 4 years. You cast a vote every single day with your dollar. That's why I use Good Ranchers. They're not messing around with trendy food fads or cheap imports. They're focusing on what matters, delivering top-notch meat from American farms straight to your door. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. You're thinking, Matt, isn't all meat the same? Wrong, you moron. Good Ranchers meat isn't just free from antibiotics, seed oils, and added hormones. It's a cut above the rest. We're talking 100% American beef, pork, and chicken. And get this, right now, Good Ranchers is running a presidential promo and you can subscribe to any of their boxes and you get a free add-on for 4 years. That's right. Until the next election, you can get extra chicken, beef, bacon, or salmon in every order. Plus, every cut is pre-trimmed and vacuum sealed. That means less prep work and more time enjoying your meal with your family. Because let's face it, that's what really matters. Plus, with my exclusive code Walsh, you'll get an additional $25 off your first box and free express shipping. Remember, you're not just choosing dinner, you're choosing to support American farmers and enjoy the best meat this country has to offer. So don't miss out. Use code Walsh at goodranchers.com today to claim this presidential promo worth over $1,200 and bring 100% American meat to your family meals until 2028. That's goodranchers.com. Use promo code Walsh, goodranchers.com, American meat delivered. This Friday, get ready to gasp, laugh, and cringe as my new movie, Am I Racist?, hits theaters nationwide. The movie trailer and clips have already made liberals lose their minds. The bad news for our friends on the left is, well, you ain't seen nothing yet. Am I Racist has been selling out theaters across the country for weeks. And on Friday, you'll finally get to see what all the buzz is about. Bring your family, bring your friends, bring in your skeptical coworkers. If your local theater wasn't showing it last time you checked amiracist.com, look again. Hundreds of screens have been added in the last 48 hours. Head to amiracist.com now for tickets and showtimes. Don't miss Am I Racist in theaters nationwide this Friday. Now let's get to our daily cancellation. You know, it's not every day that a standing ovation lasts for more than 15 minutes. Even the most brutal dictators throughout history have had difficulty attracting that kind of sustained applause. When Stalin spoke at the Communist Party conference in 1937, his audience clapped for something like 11 minutes before someone finally sat down. And that was considered pretty extreme at the time. And that was at a time when you'd get 10 years in the gulag for being the first to stop applauding. But in the world of film festivals, where incidentally you can also find a lot of communists, lengthy standing ovations are apparently pretty common. When a film really wows the crowd, the clapping just goes on and nobody wants to sit down. Pan's A Labyrinth got a 22-minute standing ovation back in 2006 at Cannes. And last week at the Venice Film Festival, a film called The Room Next Door, starring Tilda Swinton and Julianne Moore, received a standing ovation that lasted 18 minutes. It's apparently the longest standing ovation in any context in recent memory. So, what is this film about exactly? If you watch the teaser trailer, you won't come away with any idea whatsoever. Here's just part of it. So you don't really know what this is about. It's like a classic art house trailer. You know it's some artsy, dumb movie. And you could tell that the old woman is probably dying, but that's about it. And if you look at the comments, you won't get any clarity. Instead, you'll see posts like this. This is one of the top comments on this trailer on YouTube. Quote, "The color game is on point. The green and red that complement each other on Julianne and the yellow on Tilda, which then tries to copy Julianne's style, and the interior decor matching them both. Wow, it's a must-watch." Now, as best I can tell, that's not an ironic comment. There's plenty of others like it. You can tell you've entered the world of art house cinema when a film is a must-watch because the color game is on point. The green and red just complement each other so perfectly. How could you not rush out to the theaters to see the interior decor and color? But it gets worse. Because even if you watch interviews with the actresses who star in this film, you still will not come away with any idea what's going on. Watch.
About the topic of the film, Julianne, it's confronting death and being at peace with it. How did you two relate to the topic and the mind of Pedro in relationship to this theme?
Well, in terms of confronting death or the reality of it, I think that, for Ingrid in particular, she's not confronting anything at the beginning of the film. She's someone who's very much distanced from the idea of death and is exploring it like in her writing. And with Martha, she's in a position where she's being asked to witness someone's process towards death. But on the other hand, it's about being alive, right? She's being with her while she's alive. She's enjoying her life with her. She's sharing it. They're building a relationship. So it's like when you're dead, you're dead. But basically, we need to be alive when we are alive.
Wow. When you're dead, you're dead. But basically, we need to be alive when we're alive. And when you're walking, you need to be walking. When you're sitting, sitting. Standing, standing. This is the kind of profound insight you can get on the film festival circuit. Again, these people don't seem capable of actually talking about the film at all. But if you do enough digging, you'll eventually find out what this movie is about. And it is a film glorifying euthanasia. Here's how the BBC describes it, quote, "Pro-euthanasia film The Room Next Door has won the Venice Film Festival's Best Film Award. Accepting the awards, 74-year-old Spanish director told the audience, 'I believe that saying goodbye to this world cleanly and with dignity is a fundamental right of every human being.' The film sees Swinton play a war correspondent suffering from terminal cancer. She asks her old friend, played by Moore, to be at her side as she takes her own life. The director said that he made the film to communicate his belief that euthanasia should be available around the world. So, the film is all about saying goodbye to this world cleanly and with dignity, by which he means euthanasia. So how much dignity is there in euthanasia, which its supporters have taken to calling medical assistance in dying, or MAID? The Wall Street Journal just reported on the state of euthanasia in Canada, where euthanasia is now the 5th leading cause of death. More than 13,000 people died by euthanasia in Canada in 2022, compared to just 1,018 as recently as 2016. A researcher named Alexander Ryken is at the Ethics and Policy Center, did a deep dive into these numbers. He found that, quote, in 2022, more than 81% of petitions resulted in death, including for vision, hearing loss, and diabetes. He documents that the percentage of denied written requests has been falling for years, from 8% in 2019 to 3.5% in 2022, even as the number of applications has increased. So what this means is that in Canada, there are basically no guardrails on euthanasia anymore. The overwhelming majority of people who want to die, even when they don't have terminal illnesses or even life-threatening illnesses, the majority of them are being killed. And in some cases, people who don't want to die are reportedly being pressured into euthanasia. Roger Foley is just one prominent example of that. He suffers from a degenerative neurological condition as well as a depression. And at one point, when Foley became suicidal, he was placed in a mental health ward. Quoting from the Journal, after he shared those suicidal thoughts with staff, he says they began to float the idea of euthanasia. That alarmed him, so he began to record conversations secretly. He later shared them with Canadian journalists. In one, a hospital ethicist threatens Mr. Foley with denial of insurance coverage and says it would cost him north of $1,500 a day to stay in the hospital. When Mr. Foley protested, the ethicist retorted, Roger, this is not my show. My piece of this was to talk to you about if you had interest in assisted dying. I mean, that's amazing in all the worst ways. So they're not interested in treating his depression. They didn't care. They didn't care about that. They didn't care that even though Roger Foley was suicidal, he still wanted to find some way to live. He wanted to live. Instead, they suggested that he kill himself to save the government some money, which is presumably why they threatened to terminate his health coverage, which in Canada is state-run, if he didn't comply. This is supposedly the dignified death that you can expect with MAID if you were to take advantage of that program. Of course, when euthanasia advocates talk, as this director did, about a dignified death, they really just mean something that is sterile and medicalized. You know, suicide has dignity as long as it doesn't look like suicide, they claim. As long as a doctor is performing some kind of procedure and following guidelines, even if those guidelines are as permissive as they could possibly be, then supposedly it's not really suicide, it's MAID. Ironically, though, the industry seems to be coming around full circle, because now they're dispensing with the need for doctors or the facade of medical procedures entirely. The latest innovation in this field is non-medical assisted suicide, which is just suicide. The National Review reports that, quote, certain strains of the euthanasia advocacy movement believe that doctors don't need to be involved when someone wants to die. For example, the fanatics at the Final Exit Network have taught people how to kill themselves, with a couple convicted of assisting via helium. More infamously, Dr. Philip Nitschke of Australia, who has traveled the world teaching suicide courses, once told NRO's Catherine Jean Lopez that he thought troubled teens should have access to suicide pills, which he opined should be sold in supermarkets. He even conjured a suicide pod by which people can make themselves dead using nitrogen. The article goes on to discuss other non-medical models for assisted suicide, including one that's just been adopted in Germany. Quote, Germany's highest court declared a fundamental right to commit suicide, to be assisted in suicide by any willing accomplice, and to assist a suicide without regard to why somebody wants to die, meaning no health reasons are required. In its decision, the court wrote, quote, the right to take one's own life also encompasses the freedom to seek and, if offered, utilize assistance provided by third parties for this purpose. Therefore, the constitutional guarantee of the right to suicide corresponds to equally far-reaching constitutional protection extended to the acts carried out by persons rendering suicide assistance. So this is the way that it usually goes on the left. They come up with all kinds of euphemistic ways to obscure something awful and evil, but eventually the euphemisms wear off, and you're left with the thing itself in all its demonic glory. It's not MAID, it's not euthanasia, it's just suicide. That's why Canadians are approving more than 80% of these petitions for service right now, even for, again, non-terminal illnesses. Suicide is what they're really applauding at that film festival for 18 minutes. It's what courts are promoting all over the Western world. They no longer feel any shame about encouraging people to die. They just want to encourage as many people to die as possible, even people who they could have saved. And that is why the suicide industry, which has all but given up on the anodyne branding of MAID and euthanasia, is today canceled. That'll do it for the show today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Talk to you on Wednesday. Talk to you on Wednesday, not tomorrow. Have a great day. Godspeed.
Republicans are Nazis. You cannot separate yourselves from the bad white people.
Growing up, I never thought much about race. It never really seemed to matter that much, at least not to me. Am I racist?
I would really appreciate it if you left.
I'm trying to learn. I'm on this journey.
If I'm going to sort this out, I need to go deeper undercover.
They gon' say I'm racist.
Joining us now is Matt, certified DEI expert.
Here's my certification. And what you're doing is you're stretching out of your whiteness. Listen more for you in this field. Is America inherently racist?
The word inherent is challenging there.
I want to rename the George Washington Monument to the George Floyd Monument.
America is racist to its bones.
So inherently.
Yeah, this country is a piece of
white
folks,
white
trash, white supremacy, white woman, white boy.
Is there a black person around? What's a black person right here? Does he not
They gon'
exist?
say I'm racist.
Hi, Robin.
Hi, what's your name?
I'm Matt.
Just had to ask who you are because you have to be careful.
Never be too careful.
They gon' say you racist.
Buy your tickets now. In theaters September 13th. Rated PG-13.